I'll start off. My name is Amy Maxey, and I'm the program manager with Northern Colorado Clean Cities. Diego, would you like to go next?
My name is Diego Lopez. I'm also with Northern Colorado Clean Cities. Thank you.
And then the next on my list is Bob. Would you like to give a brief intro? Oh, you might be muted. Let's see if I can unmute you here. I still can't hear you, Bob, but we'll go ahead and come back to you. Chris, would you like to go next?
Sure, I'm Chris Ashby. I am the director of the Ranch Event Facility in Loveland, Larimer County's complex. And we're looking at a master plan project and want to start to accumulate information to know how we address things like the cars as we build out the complex.
Perfect. Thank you for joining. And Bob, it looks like you're unmuted now if you want to give a brief intro.
Sure. I'm Bob Anderson. I'm the Facebook administrator for the Denver Electric Vehicle Council.
Thank you. Glad to have you. Wallace, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. My name is Wally Jacobson, and I'm a member of Trinity Lutheran Church here in town and involved in our social and ecological justice ministry. And we have a solar history. I did a really good project in 2016 with Namaste Solar. So we have a significant, was it 53.5 kilowatt solar system on our church roof there. So anyway, we're looking to perhaps, this is a possibility to look at a charging station or two. So
yeah,
anyway, yeah,
absolutely. Thank you for being here. Drea,
sure.
Would you like to go next?
Sure. I'm Drea Maybe. I'm also part of Northern Colorado Clean Cities. So it's nice to meet all of you and help be part of the process.
Thank you, Drea. And then I have Kimber next.
Hi, I'm Kimber Priest. I'm the coordinating engineer for Sorry.
No worries. Glad to have you. And mine, it's moving around a little bit, but Lisa, I have you next.
Sorry, I was having problems unmuting. My name is Lisa Winchester, and I work for Crown Partners, and I manage 2 large multifamily communities in Fort Collins. One of them is almost 5 years old, and the other one is brand new and still under construction, and we are looking to add charging stations for our residents.
Great. Thank you, Lisa. Michelle, would you like to go next?
Sure. I'm Michelle Stewart, the Executive Director of Yampa Valley Sustainability Council. We are located in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and joining because we've been partnering with the city to support their EV readiness planning, and curious to hear about the initiative and opportunities. Thanks.
Thank you. And then Tom?
Yes, hello everybody. My name is Tom Swallen. I am with Namaste Solar, located in Boulder and Denver. My interest is twofold. For one, I'm here in Fort Collins. I'm a member of Plymouth Congregational, just like Wallace. I'm on the environmental ministry team. I do not know whether or not we do have interest in car charging stations at the church, but the church in general is interested in supportive of environmental issues like these. On the professional side, we do sell, for example, carports, and just recently sold a project to a company that also wanted car charging stations. And so we do see car charging stations as a product that's going to probably be more and more asked for by customers who consult with us about car ports.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then last but not least, I have Angel. Oh, and we got one more too.
Hello, So my name is Angel Bond. I am the Boulder County Mobility for All Program Manager, and I work with you all. Well, Diego attends our LCC meetings sometimes, our local coordinating council meetings, and I'm just listening in because we're conducting a study on how we can have more equitable EV access for low-income populations and communities of color.
Perfect. Thank you for joining. And I think we have a couple meetings, at least one this week. So we're excited for that as well. And then Dale, I see that you just joined. We're just doing a brief intro, name and organization. If you would like to introduce yourself. You might need to unmute. Let me see. If you're able to unmute and you want to introduce yourself, you can feel free to type something in the chat as well. I know some people were having some issues with unmuting, but you can open up the chat box and type any information you'd like there as well. And that goes along, with the rest of you. Feel free at any point if you have a question or a comment, feel free to either type it in the chat or you can do the reaction function. And I think there's a raise hand. So we'll keep an eye out for that, but let's go ahead and get started. So thanks again, everybody, for coming. Again, this is the Charge Ahead Colorado workshop, and my name is Amy Maxey. I'm the program manager with Northern Colorado Clean Cities. Some of the goals we have today, we're going to overview the electric vehicle supply equipment and EVs just very briefly to make sure we're all on the same page. And then we're also going to talk about the Charge Ahead Colorado application. We're going to do some overview on it as well as best practices. And we also have a form that we'll have you fill out as well. We're also going to learn about some of the benefits of the free advising sessions that we offer. But first, I'm going to start off with a poll question. Oh, Diego, it says I'm logged on. You might have to be the one to open up the poll. You want to give that a shot. Can you guys see the poll? Is it up? Okay, I can't see it on my end, Diego, so you might want to, would you mind directing people for this?
So it should be live right now. So let's see here.
It's up, I can see it.
Okay, great.
Perfect, so if you guys don't mind filling out those questions, and then once we have your answers, we'll go ahead and show them briefly, and then we'll kick off the presentation. And we have 12 participants total, Diego. So once we get to, what would that be, like 9, I think we'll be good to go.
My submit button didn't work.
The submit button didn't work for yours, Bob?
Yeah.
Did it give you an error message or anything?
It might be my old computer. Sorry.
Oh. No, no
it's
worries.
not working for me either, Amy. Wally here.
Huh? Does it come up with any?
And it's saying actually there's 2 participants that are not able to join, so it might be that, yeah, it's just the connection with the computer.
Okay. Well, no worries. We can also send these surveys to you after. I don't want to take up too much time on them, but they're just 4 brief questions. So if you're unable to submit, that's okay. These technical problems happen sometimes. So we'll go ahead and just continue on, and hopefully for the post survey, you're able to submit. But if not, again, we can just send these to you in a follow-up email. But anyway, so you might be wondering, we're Northern Colorado Clean Cities, but how are we able to help you today? Well, we are also Recharge Colorado coaches. So as coaches, we can do certain things to help businesses, fleets, and consumers, such as our workshops, our ride and drives. We also do group buy events. So we just had a pretty successful event with the city of Fort Collins and the city of Loveland, as well as participating dealers. And that's to, decrease the initial upfront cost of these EVs to make them more accessible for all community members. We also do special events such as our electric truck series that will be kicking off hopefully at the end of this month. And then we have general coaching support and infrastructure development support, which is why we're here today. And if you look at this map on the right, these are all the recharge coach regions, and we are the yellow, so in the northeastern side of the state. If you are in another area, that's okay. Stick with us here. We can connect you to the correct recharge coach, and we can help you along either way. So as a brief overview for those who don't know about EVs and EVSE, I'm going to cover just a few slides here before we dive into Charge Ahead Colorado. So an electric drive vehicle, you know, what are they? Well, they are vehicles that are powered by an electric motor and battery source. So there are two different kinds that you can find. You can have a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. So these are powered by an electric motor and an engine. And these folks will have the ability to use your EV charging station. They do have a smaller battery, so they'll get around 20 to 80 miles of electric range. And then once their battery is depleted, they operate like a standard hybrid vehicle. And then we also have the all-electric vehicle. So this is completely powered by an electric motor in the battery, and they use the EVSE and regenerative braking as well to charge the battery. And with these, you can see anywhere from 80 to over 300 miles in electric range, and that number continues to grow as the technology becomes more advanced. One thing to highlight is that this vehicle only runs on electricity, so there's no fuel, no oil changes and things like that. So you may have heard me say EVSE a couple times. What does that mean? Well, that stands for Electric Vehicle Supply Equipment, which consists of all of the equipment needed to deliver that electrical energy from an electricity source into the battery. So this is what we'll be discussing today. Within EV chargers or EVSE, there are different levels that you may have heard of. The two levels that we'll focus on are the highlighted in yellow, and that is the level 2 and the level 3, also known as the DC fast chargers. So with both of those, you will need an electrician to help with install, but they do vary in price as well as charging time. So the level 2, you can see anywhere as low as $1,500 all the way to over $5,000. And with them, you get about 10 to 20 miles of range, depending on your vehicle, per hour of charging. So an electric vehicle owner could charge their vehicle full within 3 to 8 hours on that. And you'll also find level 2 chargers in both residential and commercial uses. Some EV owners do have level 2 charging in their garage, for instance. But the level 3 or the DC fast charging gets you 60 to 80 miles of range per 20 minutes of charging. So obviously, you know, a lot more of an electrical output. You can get to a full charge within 30 minutes to 2 hours. But the costs associated with that are going to be a little bit more expensive. So anywhere from $10,000 to over $30,000. And these are generally just used in the commercial settings. Are there any questions so far? Okay. So for some tips that we wanted to give you for minimizing your EVSE costs, and this is whether or not you apply for the Charge Ahead Colorado funding opportunity, we want you to think about long-term planning and location. So for long-term planning, you're going to want to contact your utility, which you'll need to do regardless if you're installing an EVSE. But they can talk you through electricity consumption, demand charges, and your electrical service needs. And when you're doing this, make sure to think about your future and, you know, try to future-proof this project. So if you think, for right now, we're going to have 1 charger, but in 10 years, I can see us needing 3 as more EVs come on the road and the needs for these charging stations increase. You can plan that with your utility and with your contractors and developers so that you have the wiring and conduit in place, and that will just lessen costs down the road. Another thing we recommend and that we can help you with is to get multiple quotes from different EVSE vendors. So that way you can compare prices, technologies, and capabilities and really choose the best vendor for your project that meet your needs. Now on the location side, you'll want to place this unit close to where the electrical service is. So even if it's not, you know, you have a parking lot and it's not necessarily front and center, that's okay. We would still recommend you save costs by putting it closer to the electrical service. And then we can just use signage to direct those EV drivers to that location. And it'll end up being most likely a little bit cheaper. We also recommend that you choose a location that already has a space with an electrical panel and dedicated circuit for this project. And if you don't have that, that's okay. You know, we will help you out with that, with your project. And then just in general, so the wall units that you may see where you install the charger on the wall instead of a standalone pedestal is generally cheaper than the pedestal unit. So that's something to consider as well if you have the capability to use one of those. All right, so now that we know a little bit more about EVs and EVSE, what are some benefits to your organization to install? So what we have found is that you can see an increased revenue from purchases made by these EV owners who are waiting for their vehicles to charge. So for instance, you know, Odell has a charging station. You can go ahead and charge your car there and go inside and buy some merch or some beer to go, or, you know, what have you. So they're seeing money from having that charging station at that location. Another thing is you can see public perception might be changed of your organization. Colorado has a lot of really aggressive climate goals, and to see that your organization is at the forefront of that and really embracing these advanced technologies can increase your public perception. Not only that, once you do get your station up and running, there are a lot of different maps and apps that showcase and highlight all these public charging stations. So you'll be on those maps. So that's just another way to get more individuals to your organization. And now let's say you're a fleet or a business that wants to allow your employees to use a workplace charger, or you're a multifamily unit. You could see increased tenant or employee attraction and retention through this as well. For instance, as our own personal story, we lived in an apartment that did not have an EV charging station, but we bought an EV. And luckily we rent a house now, but if we were moving into, you know, another complex, that is something that we would both look for, is what units have access to a charging station. And then of course, celebrating. So after we get this project, we get you some funding and the project's, the EV charging station is ready for the public. We want to help with the ribbon cutting. We have resources to kind of celebrate your success. And then we're going to go ahead and go into Charge Ahead Colorado next. But I did see a question here. We will go ahead and share this presentation via email after this event. And then Bob, you made a good point too, that you can advertise your charger on multiple sites. I think that's a great addition. So any questions other than that so far? Okay, perfect. So we're going to do a little overview of Charge Ahead. Oh. Okay, we're going to do an overview now of Charge Ahead Colorado. So if you haven't heard of this funding source before, it is a partnership between the Colorado Energy Office as well as the Regional Air Quality Council. And it supports electric vehicle charging infrastructure. It also does support electric vehicles, but only in the Denver metro area. So if you happen to be in that area, you know, reach out to us. But for the sake of this presentation and our location, we are only going to focus on the electric vehicle charging infrastructure. These grants are good for community-based level 2 and level 3 or DC fast charging, like I mentioned. And eligible applicants include public, private, and nonprofit organizations. So I do want to say they do call out specifically multifamily unit complexes as well as fleets. So they really do encourage you all to apply. One thing to know though, when you do apply, is that there is a 20% match. Which we can help you with as well. So for instance, some of the time that it takes you to fill out this application, plan your project, that can go into your 20% match as well. And if you can provide more than that match, that's also a bit competitive for your application as well. Once you get your award notification, you have 6 months to complete your project and have the EV station, you know, become live. So let's say you apply this round and it ends February 16th, you hear about it or you get your award on March 16th. You have 6 months from that time to complete your project. And another thing with these stations is that they do have to be operational for 5 years, and there's certain reporting requirements that go along with that. And again, we can kind of help you work through that. And the application starts tomorrow, so we're ready to get started. And so just to talk a little bit more about the funding levels, and don't worry, I'll ask if there's any other questions, or if you have questions, because I know I'm saying a lot, please type them in the chat and we'll make sure to answer those. But what the funding levels look like, I mentioned that you have a 20% match. Charge Ahead Colorado will fund up to 80% for your projects, not to exceed the following amounts. So for fleets and a fleet-only station, you can get up to $6,000. For a public level 2, you can get up to $9,000. And then for your level 3, again, these are more expensive to install, which is why you see the funding is a bit more increased. Depending on the electrical output, you can get anywhere from $35,000 to $50,000. So something to consider there with your projects. And with those costs, this is something that's really important as well. And I'm impressed by how much it covers. So eligible costs from those amounts would be for your charging station and related equipment, your construction materials and labor costs associated with the equipment purchase and installation, your permitting costs that you may run into, as well as utility and electric upgrades. So such as new transformers, breaker boxes, electrical panels, which is very helpful. And then there's also signage is an eligible cost. So again, let's say you have that parking lot situation where you can save, you know, however much money by putting it at a not quite visible location, we can still get you signage so that folks know where to go. And then networking and subscription fees and activation fees are also covered. Okay, so what are the program goals with Charge Ahead Colorado? And you're going to hear me talk about this a bit because it's very important. The objectives of the Charge Ahead Colorado program are to, 1, promote the installation of electric vehicle charging stations throughout Colorado, to increase the number of electric vehicles purchased in Colorado, and to, of course, reduce harmful air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions associated with gasoline and diesel vehicles, and to gather data on electric vehicles and charging stations to better understand their usage, which is part of that reporting element. And then the 5th one is to support the implementation of the Colorado Electric Vehicle Plan. So like I mentioned, those aggressive goals that we have, you know, how will your project help? When we move forward to the evaluation criteria, the first thing that they mention is how will the proposed project meet the objectives? So those 5 objectives are very important to them and important to your application. And if you don't know the answers to all of those, that's okay. We'll help figure that out for you. And now I'm not going to go through every single evaluation criteria listed here, but essentially it's all about your level of planning. Are you able to meet the general requirements like the 20% match and, you know, be able to input the data for or submit the data for the next 5 years? And then how much did you think through your plan or your project? Did you choose the right level for your needs, whether it's a level 2 charging station or a level 3? Have you talked to your utility about, you know, how you're going to structure like plans and payments and things like that? And then of course you want, you know, any additional commitments to renewable energy or sustainability they also look at. And then they want you just to have a well thought out, well written application, which again, you know, we can help you with. Okay, so from this, we have helped a lot of applicants in the past, and we found there are definite best practices to make your application just a bit more attractive. So the first thing, again, is to address each, if you can, or at least multiple of the 5 program goals. And then from there, you know, you also want to communicate your understanding of the project as well as your connection with your utilities. So do you know the time of use rates? Do you know the level of charging you need? Did you apply for the correct type of charging station? But then we also really want to think about your location and your organization. So where are you located in terms of corridors? What amenities are near you? Are you near a tourist attraction that would bring even, you know, people from out of state will be around your EV charging station? And we can also look at, you know, let's say you're the only organization or business with a charging station in a 10-mile radius. Like that's another attractive thing. And that's not to say that if you're not, you know, maybe there is a charging station next door, that's okay. We still want to expand the amount that are available for the public. So we'll help you there. So I'm going to just pause here. Are there any questions or comments, or does anybody want to say anything about their project at this moment? We have plenty of time. Look through. All right, looks like we're good to continue on.
Amy, real quick, this is Wally. Could you go back to the previous slide just for a second? Because that would help if we have any questions perhaps.
Yeah,
Can I ask a general question then? In terms of the goals of the program, I'm not sure exactly what those are. Again, thank you. So like in a situation, hypothetically, like a church of ours, this is a little different type of situation, obviously. Is there anything in terms of, I guess, do you need to know where other charging stations might be? And is that something would be helpful to put into your application, for instance, to say, okay, there was nothing in this area, therefore, if we even did one, it would be of great benefit to some, right? It's not like we're on a high volume street or anything either. So it's like, this would be, frankly, we were thinking of it perhaps mostly for our own church congregants' use, right? You know, if that's not a great choice, then I guess we would maybe not be a good candidate, but just kind of trying to get a feel for how to interpret some of these goals here and stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So you'll definitely, I think your application would definitely still be attractive. And what you could do, we will help you look and see what charging stations are around. And even if you're not on a busy street, I'm sure you're close to other, you know, amenities, and also just the fact that you are an organization that multiple people go to, I think is something that we can, and may go to, you know, potentially multiple times a week, is something that we can also add to your application. And then we'll look at the surrounding areas, surrounding opportunities for, you know, charging stations, or if there is any there. But when you're looking at the objective goals to, you know, any charging station that's open and available to the public will help, for instance, implement some of the Colorado Electric Vehicle Plan goals, because it's more accessible. People are more aware of it. You know, maybe they don't even own an EV, but they walk by it every time they walk into your church, or, you know, and so I think there are ways that we can make sure that your application addresses these items. And it's something that, I don't know, Diego, if you have other items to add to that, but I wouldn't worry too much. I think even if you're not on a busy street, you can have other benefits to your location.
Only other thing that I would add to that is we want more test cases and the variety of cases. How are we going to charge vehicles in multiple locations? And we want that data, and we want the success story. So I think you actually have a quite competitive opportunity there. So let's definitely talk about more about what's around your location there, and let's see how we can make it as competitive as possible.
Yeah. Thank you.
And
well,
I would add, you know, I'm looking through a similar lens like you do, Wally, from you know, how does this look like for a church? And a couple of things came to mind. Now, right now, given the pandemic, that is certainly skewed, but I do believe that overall it is underestimated how many people go to the church, not just for weekend services, but also for other programs for which the church often free of charge opens its doors to other organizations that want to meet, you know, in a safe space, in a good environment. Also, there's looking at Plymouth, there's a staff, right? There's several full and part-time employees that come and go, and just like Trinity Lutheran. Folks at Plymouth are environmentally conscious. They try to ride their bike, but they also, you know, prefer a plug-in hybrid or electric vehicle over a regular combustion engine. And the other thing that came to mind, Wally, is funding priority. You know, besides the application, you know, values with regards to reaching its goals. Nonprofit organizations are often excluded from other funding that's available, or tax credits that are available to organizations. And because of that, nonprofits like a church often gets a better funding priority than you know, relative to other organizations.
Well, that's very interesting and helpful. Thank you. Yeah, I agree with you a lot about the folks other than our own congregants that are there during the week. And we have quite a few. I'm sure they do it. You do at Plymouth as well. And yeah, and staff possibilities too. Again, at this point in time, you know, we know that there are not, percentage-wise, that many electrical vehicles on the road yet. And that's the key word. That's what we're trying to encourage. And that's why this is so appealing in concept to me. And I guess I would have one other quick question in terms of the application period for this particular solicitation you're doing that starts tomorrow and runs through February, what was it, 15th or something?
The 16th at 5 p.m. is the
16th. Okay. Well, you know, I guess to do a formal application within a month's time might be a little challenging. I'm not sure we would be in a position to do that soon. It's a question. So I guess that's a little bit of a potential limiting factor, but if we couldn't make it on this particular month window, will there be another one down the road, another window?
Yep, great question. So there's generally 3 application rounds per year, and the next one we would anticipate to open around May. But that's not to say we have seen applicants and applications as quickly as, I think Diego's done one in a week. But if we're wanting to take our time and, you know, you're really at the beginning steps of this, there's no rush to get it in by February 16th because we will have that April to May round opening.
Okay.
And we'll go ahead and I'm going to like send out a form, or we're going to do a form during this workshop as well. And that'll just help kind of kickstart. So Chris also mentioned, you know, he might not be able to apply for this round, but is looking for the May, April timeline. So we'll just be a couple steps ahead. So that way we don't have to rush when that period opens or that application round opens.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Of course. Thank you. Good questions. So I'll just go ahead and really quickly, I'm not going to go through the entire application, but Charge Ahead does have a lot of helpful documents for you. So first, this is what the application looks like. It is 12 pages long, and there are different, you know, questions that you need to answer and contact information and forms that you need to fill out. But I just want to point out there's 2 separate things that this application form will talk about. The charging stations here. And then if you scroll down, you might see things about electric vehicles. Again, that's just for the Denver metro region. So you really only have to pay attention to the electric charging stations and those types of questions. And then they do have an application guide for you to use as well. So we recommend you look through that before applying as well. It'll help you really know, you know, am I eligible? Can I meet these requirements? But during our one-on-one advising sessions, we can kind of go through this with you as well. The last document that I want to share that is available online as well is the best practices for electric vehicle charger selection. So if you're unsure, am I a level 2 or level 3? What would be best for my business? This document can help get you there. And one thing that I'll show, which I think is a nice kind of web chart here, is they have kind of a helpful chart at the bottom. So who will use your chargers? Let's say you're just a public organization and you're wanting a public charging station. They ask, how long do vehicles stay parked at your lot or facility? If it's less than 30 minutes, you know, people come and go real quickly, they would recommend a level 3 because that's going to give people adequate charging for the time that they're there. If they're there for over 30 minutes to 4 hours or over 4 hours, they would recommend a level 2. But this is just to show that there's a lot of helpful documents out there for you that we can work together on understanding throughout this process. But now, if there's no other questions, I want to go ahead and get us started. So we're going to have you all fill out a Google form. It's only about 10 questions, and some of them are yes or no, pretty easy. But if you could click onto the link that Diego shared in the chat box, we'll get you started. And let me know if you have any problems opening that, and I can send it to you directly, or you can just make sure you get it. But it looks a bit like this. It'll look a little bit different for you because you'll be filling it out. Thank you, Angel. We'll talk to you soon. All right, are people able to open the document? Diego, you did. Drea, were you able to open that all right through the chat?
Yep, I was. It just took a while to load.
Okay, no problem. Thank you for letting me know. So there's 2 sections on this form. The first section is really going to cover your contact info and your organization info. So just your first and last name, your contact email and phone number. And then we'll go on into the organization. So what's the name of the organization or workplace or multifamily unit property that you'd be applying for? And then what kind of going along with that, what is the type of organization? So again, if it's a multifamily unit complex, if it is a workplace or just, a public or private organization, go ahead and list that there. And I do want to say, if at any point during answering these questions, you're not quite sure what to put, go ahead and just write unsure. And Diego and I will work with you to make sure that we can answer these questions. So don't worry if you have to leave one blank, you can just type unsure.
Amy, I am sorry, I am not able to interact with this form. I don't know if I'm not doing something that I need to do.
No problem. So when you click, is it opened for you on your screen?
I see the form, yeah. Charge ahead Colorado at the top and then contact first and last name right below that.
But it won't let you.
I'm trying to left click into the short answer text piece there where.
Let me see. I'll open this up here. So right down here when it says your answer, if you click on this, it doesn't.
All right, there is now a cursor showing up there. Let me see if this works. No, let me try again here.
Is anybody else experiencing that problem as well?
No, it opened for me.
Okay, thank you.
No, it is not taking my information.
That's strange. I haven't had that happen before.
Double check, and we can always pass it out on later time and in a different document. Word.
Yeah, and maybe I could. Yeah, Word document might be easier too. I'm not sure if it's needing a Google account. That wouldn't really make sense. So usually, yeah, if you just click underneath.
I mean, I could interact with that first form, that little 3-question quick thing that you did there.
Yeah, that's true.
And I could not submit it though, just like Bob, I think it was.
Okay.
But this isn't, I can't get anything to happen.
No
Yeah.
problem. No problem.
We'll go ahead, Wally. I'll maybe stay after a little bit and we can see if we can troubleshoot. I might be able to just figure this out somehow with you as well, separately.
If this was a fairly short little survey form, I mean, I could do it if someone could just send me something afterwards.
Yeah.
I could just provide that information. I'd be happy to.
Yeah, I can definitely do that for you. I'm sorry that for some reason we're experiencing a couple technical difficulties with this. I'm seeing that some people have been able to send it in, so we'll have to troubleshoot that. But just for the sake of, I guess, moving forward with this, Wally, I'll definitely contact you after, and we'll make sure that we can get this information from you to kind of make sure that we're ready to go for the May round. But if anybody else is having any troubles, please let me know. And if you have any questions too, section 2 does get a little bit more advanced into Charge Ahead Colorado starting questions. So we have questions like, does your organization have specific or general planning documents related to EV, sustainability, or charging stations? If so, please explain. So Wally here, just the fact that you're a part of an environmental group, I think is something that we could add in your application. So things like that would be beneficial to know. And then, has your organization received any interest from stakeholders, employees that own an EV that would like a charging station at your location? And I put an unsure button here just in case, maybe, but you haven't heard of anything, but maybe your colleague has, that could be a possibility. And then the next one is to provide a description of the site location, including nearby amenities. and hours of access. So if you were to have your business in the parking locations have a gate that close at 5 p.m., we would want to know that. Or is it just open to the public all hours of the day? Another thing would be, will the charging stations be open to the public? If not all units, how many? So let's say you have one that will be open to all members of the public and one that you want to use just for your employees. That would be something you'd want to list there. And then our final question here is to please check all program objectives listed below that your proposed project will address. So again, these are the 5 objectives that I mentioned earlier that the Colorado Energy Office and the Regional Air Quality Council want to see that you are advancing with your project. So click all that apply, and it's okay if you don't click all of them. You know, we can certainly look through your application and your project together with you and see how your project will meet these objectives. But if anybody has any questions, please let me know. And if anybody else is experiencing some difficulties with this, I would also be interested in hearing about that as well. And I can give just a few more minutes for those who need it. And this form will go just to us at Northern Colorado Clean Cities. So it'll help us kind of kickstart your application, like I said. So don't worry, we're not going to give this information out to anybody else. It's just us, it's confidential with us. As we work to turn in a charge ahead grant application. Okay. We'll give just another minute here, and then we just have a couple more slides. We have 15 minutes left if there are other questions, so we'll have time for that as well. See, I've gotten 5 responded, so that's great. Okay. So I just want to kind of follow up with other workshops that we are going to be doing and that we can do for you. So if your organization wants to have, you know, an EV 101 event, let us know and we'll be happy to come and present to whoever you would like. Or if you want to partner on something, feel free to let us know. 2 or 3 upcoming events that we have our Fueling with Waste, which is a waste management site tour. So, you know, how do those trash haulers fuel their vehicles with an alternative fuel known as renewable natural gas, or RNG. That's going to be January 27th at 1 p.m. And then we also will have Drea here. Actually, our intern is hosting this great sustainability and equity around EVs. So talking about life cycle analysis, recycling of these EV batteries, and all things kind of EV. And that will be February 11th at 1 p.m. And then, like I mentioned earlier, we are working on an electric truck series event at the end of the month, but we're hoping to have multiple electric truck series because we're finding that there's a lot more that are coming out in 2021. So that's very exciting too for a lot of consumers, especially in the mountainous areas. Okay, so the next steps, if you haven't completed that charge ahead form, please do. And then we'll connect with you. But in the meantime, if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to us, talk to your utility. We can start those conversations. We can start planning your site and getting you some vendor quotes to move along with this application. I do have just one more post survey or poll, not even a survey. If Diego, you could pull that up, please. And another thing I want to mention while Diego's working on that is that depending on your utility, there might be even more resources we can get you. So we have Charge Ahead Colorado that opens tomorrow and runs for the month. But again, there's 3 application rounds each year. So we'll expect another one in the April-May timeline. But we might be able to find you even more funding. So that's always a possibility too. Were you able to get those polls up too, Diego? Just, I can't see you on this.
And that post survey in progress should be up. And I just wanted to, doubly mention, Amy, this is just for Charge Ahead. And just like she said, there's other potential funding resources that we can help you with. If you're a large fleet, if you're a school, there's so many different funding just depending on the application and depending on the stakeholder. So do let us know and we can potentially find you other resources. And I see one person answered the question, so it is working.
Wally, I have a feeling this one might not work for you either for some reason. I wish I knew why, but let us know if for some reason it does. That would be wonderful. But if not, that's okay. We'll definitely connect with you one-on-one after this event. And then in the meantime,
I am able to start, I can click on the buttons where the answers are needed, but I'm not sure it's going to submit.
interesting. Okay, yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, definitely. And are there any other questions or thoughts, or does anybody want to talk more about their project? We have, 12 minutes left, so happy to have any conversations while we still have some time. Or was there anything particularly interesting you learned about Charge Ahead today? Yeah, love to hear any feedback or thoughts or questions.
We at the DEVC, or the Denver Electric Vehicle Council, we're really not just in Denver. We're all over. I don't know who, the council's been around since 1977, so I'm not sure who named it. But we came across an orphan car that belonged to the city of Denver and Lakewood, the cities. That was a 1980 Dodge Omni, and it was destined for a crusher, and the council ponied up enough money to A, buy it, and B, get it shipped to Denver. And it's an electric vehicle. In 1980, the government put out a bid to the car manufacturers to come up with a car that could be changed over to electric. And a company in Texas said, we can convert them. Lee Iacocca, who was crazy about electric cars at that time, said, sure, I'll give you the Omnis. And I think they converted something like 50,000 of them. I believe that Denver and maybe Longmont and Boulder and Lakewood all had some of these cars. I believe that there were 7 in the area. And we have maybe the only last one. Right now it's sitting in a sheltered area, and we're waiting for the snow to go away or the snow to start, depending on how you look at the weather. And but over the next year or so, we plan on taking that car and making it a revitalizing it, putting paint on it. We've got a guy doing the decals again because it still has the city of Denver on either door, and it's kind of cool. So that's our project, one of our projects. COVID has kind of killed our money supply, so I don't know what we're doing. We moved the car and everything just on donations from people on Facebook that jumped in and
oh wow,
money. So
and where do you charge that vehicle?
Where do we charge it? Well, first we have to figure out what what it takes. It ran on 18 6-volt batteries, none of which are in the car. In the trunk are a couple of what we determined to be Prius batteries, but they're just laying in the trunk for no good reason. We found a place to recycle them if we can't use them. We are going to put in 12-volt batteries, 6 or 7 12-volt batteries, and I'm not an electrician. I drive 2 electric cars, and I know absolutely nothing about electronics. I run, they spark or smoke. But that's our upcoming project with the DEVC. You can find out more by joining us at devc.info to get our newsletter. We send it out for free. We normally have 2 functions a year that are how we draw our dues. But with COVID, we had to put away our idea of last summer's barbecue and our winter lunch meeting. Those usually bring everybody with money and pay the dues. But, you know, we'll work our way out of it, I think. I
Oh
hope.
yeah.
If not, we have a car for sale.
Yeah, there you go. Well, what a fun project. Yeah, that's very exciting. And it's cool that you've gotten a lot of support, it sounds like, for your project. So
Yeah. Well, yeah, 5 of us.
That's what I like about, you know, I've seen also, going back to your slide, Amy, you know, once you get a charging station, there is a new community that you get some support from. You know, the EV community really are some supportive people, and they're always willing to you know, go to an event and do some extra things, maybe on Earth Day, and maybe drive electric week, you know, later on in the year. You guys are hopefully doing some good stuff too. Earth Day.
yeah, and there've been, yeah, Earth Day is always a lot of fun. And we're trying to plan some Earth Day, you know, events as well, or just hop on and, you know, see what's going on for Earth Day. And the whole week is kind of a celebration. I know another cool thing that I've seen during COVID is Sustainable Resilient Longmont had a little motorcade. So they had a bunch of EV owners come and, like, I think just do a little drive. So obviously they're in their own vehicle and wearing masks when appropriate and everything, but just kind of trying to make it work, you know, and still feel that sense of community, even though times are a little bit trickier right now.
Right. And people with electric cars are crazy. We'll do anything. We came to Longmont. I have a Tesla along with an NEV, which is a neighborhood electric vehicle. It's a golf cart on steroids. And Wallace, when I drove it, I mean, I've driven it 10,000 miles since I've had it just around the Denver area, but I continually look for places that I can plug into.
Mhm.
I laugh and say, you know, my range is only 20 miles. I normally don't go farther than 20, but I carry an extension cord just to, you know, meet people and ask them if I can borrow a little of their electricity. Wallace, I would suggest you put a couple plugs outside and see what comes, you know, just for starters. You know, put in a 220 plug in and put in a 110 and see what comes with a plug and plugs into church.
That is something that.
Thank you. Yeah, I just briefly, I was going to say, we do have at least 3 folks at Trinity that are our church that have electric vehicles that I know of. There may be others. So I'm sure there's some built-in interest right there.
Yeah.
You know, but I appreciate your thought, Bob. It's such an intriguing idea, and I guess we hadn't really discussed it too seriously, but I think now is a pretty good time, at least early in the year, to get some thoughts going and see if it might work for us.
And we can, with that, you know, provide a survey that you can give out to see what the interest is. And if you already have 3 folks that own an EV there, that right away is going to make your application also look more attractive. Because not only would you have charging stations there, which, yes, they could also plug into the 110, but you'll have charging stations and people will be using them. So people will see them get utilized, you know, and maybe somebody's just walking up to the front doors and just asks, you know, what's going on here? I feel like that's how a lot of people learn, you know, about newer technologies, is just by kind of experiencing them, whether it's firsthand or through a peer.
No, I think that's a great point. Yeah.
And I think it was mentioned as well. I mean, I've been a part of other projects for like Mobile Loaves and Fishes, and so they did like meals on e-wheels types of stuff.
Mhm.
So just like you said, you know, the community centers serve so many other purposes. So if we can just bring about more sustainability to those community services, that's what we want to do. So yeah, we're so glad that there's interest. There's so much interest.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to thank you all. I don't want to take up any more of your time, but if you do have any other leftover questions, you know, I can stay on, but otherwise, thank you so much for joining and filling out the form. We'll reach out and stay in contact and kind of plan your best timeline for this project or when you want to apply, we'll make sure that you're ready to go, because we want to get you as much funding as possible. But thank you all very much for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate the info.
Yeah, that's
you.
helpful.
And Wally, we'll connect with you and get you some of this stuff separate.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you've got my email, right? Through the application for this session. So
Perfect.
okay.
Thank
Goodbye,
you.
everybody.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.